Hey, what's up guys, it's I, Mark Yoon, and today I'm bringing another hopefully exciting video. So what I wanted to talk about today is Amy and Viola, or Viola. I want to discuss how they can both be in the game and what reasoning Project Soul would have to put them both in the game. This is coming off the back of a lot of recent roster videos that I've made discussing how there might be a possibility that Amy is replaced by Viola. And a couple commenters have actually brought up some good points, and I'm going to touch on them and expand upon them with my own points, and we're going to go from there. So, the first thing that I wanted to touch on is Amy is not Viola yet, right? We see the beginnings of her becoming Viola in Soul Calibur 6, especially in her Soul Chronicle. So we know that that's the road that they're actually going down. It's a lot sooner than like it was in the past timeline. In the past timeline, she didn't become Viola until Soul Calibur 5, but Soul Calibur 6 takes place around the timeline of Soul Calibur 1 and the beginnings of Soul Calibur 2. So there's a lot of differences already between the two timelines from its counterpart and predecessor. But when we have Amy becoming Viola, we have the obvious question, is she going to be replaced by Viola? Because a lot of people like Amy's playstyle, they like her as a character, and she is far different from Amy. Taking aside manifestation and how she becomes Viola herself and what magical processes are involved in her actually transforming, we're just going to talk about today how she can actually be both of them in the game. So we're obviously going to start the game with Amy. This is not obvious. There's one of two things that can happen. She can either start as Amy, or she can actually be Viola off the jump and have a flashback sequence or an extended Soul Chronicle detailing how Amy became Viola, sort of off screen, which I know a lot of people probably wouldn't like the latter. So let's just start with the premise of the former. I think that if we have Amy going down a path of becoming Viola. So let's say she's been recruited based on her psychic powers by Ishka Acht and Johann Druger, and they're actually talking about making her part of the Swords and Shepherds, maybe pairing her with Zwei. I don't know if Zwei and her are actually going to be paired. They're both going to be obviously part of the Swords and Shepherds, but that's a whole other video. So let's say that she's going down the path, right? And they're purposefully putting her in situations where she has to use her psychic powers or her prowess so that she's more susceptible to as well as spells in becoming who she is. I don't know if they're going to go down the road of manifestation or if they're just going to go down the road of brainwashing and releasing her latent power, or perhaps her latent power is so powerful that it erases her memory, a la something like Jean Grey as the Phoenix, stuff like that. So what I think is the best route for that is we see her going down this path of becoming Viola. And it's a slow process to where she doesn't really become Viola until the mid to late to third act of the game. This way we can still have both characters as playable, because obviously you're going to have Amy as herself going through this path, albeit a little bit darker than she used to be. And then eventually we're going to have her transform or turn into Viola. This way they would both be their own characters, right? And they both have their own character slots. The other option that I can see actually happening is if you go with one or the other. So if Amy is the main part of the game for her, then Viola could be an alt. And by an alt, I mean you slide over, and instead of getting an alternate costume, you get an alternate character. The problem with this is that she probably wouldn't be as fleshed out as she was before, but we don't know what kind of weapon styles or fighting styles she's actually going to be using yet anyway. Soul Calibur 6, since it's rebooted the franchise, has done a great job of revamping a lot of characters and turning them into something different. I've seen a lot of people talk about this, but we're going to bring that up in another later video. So we have the option of alts, where you can either have Viola as the base with an Amy alt, or Amy as the base with a Viola alt, which is a secondary way that actually put both characters in the game. And this would be probably the best way they can do this if there is a flashback sequence. So say you start the game as Viola, but you don't know she's Viola. The Swords and Shepherds have started forming, and Viola shows up to face one of the heroes, either alongside Zwei, because there has to be a pairing. It's the Sword and the Shepherds. So whoever her pairing is going to be with, she goes up against the heroes, somebody recognizes her. Perhaps this would be best if it was like Raphael, but we can see the workings that she has no idea who she is. She only knows herself as Viola, and she is one of the Swords and Shepherds, and she is just attacking the heroes full on, right? So we can go down this process of like emotionally trying to appeal to her better senses to make her realize who she is. But if she is the main part, then perhaps we can go into a Soul Chronicle once she regains her memory, detailing how she recalls becoming Viola in the first place. Now, the one thing that I wanted to talk about in another video, but I want to touch on here, is that like the transformation from Amy into Viola is somewhat permanent. It's not like she can go back to who she was before, because once her latent abilities are released, unless they are suppressed somehow or she has some kind of like mind blocker on, it's going to be a part of who she is. So the character of Amy itself will forever change anyway. But having the flashback would be a good way to have both versions of the characters in the game. Now, it's hard to talk about these subjects because everybody has a favorite and everybody has a main, so it's really hard for me to like justify saying, well, they should turn her into Viola, because I know a lot of people love the version of Viola, but a lot of people also love the version of Amy. If my comment section shows everything, it's that like there's no way everyone's going to be pleased, but it's about finding the common denominator and doing the best way where people are adequately satisfied as opposed to like hyped, which kind of sucks, but that's just what we have to deal with when it comes to marketing and big companies like pushing out like product. But I think that there is a couple ways that they can actually do that. So the first way we talked about is having them both just straight up in the roster because she starts off as one character versus the other. The second is having an alt. The third is a little bit less fun, but the third could be they can have her character creation style for Create a Soul in the game as a style to choose from, just like they did with Devil Jin in Soul Calibur 5, how he was not an actual character in the game, but we had his fighting style for Create a Souls. They can do this with Amy and as well if he departs from the series as well. So I think that would actually be an okay counterpart, but the thing is, if they're going to do that, they'd have to have all of Amy's stuff still available for Create a Soul, so at least you can somewhat create her in the character creation system, or use that to edit Viola into her, which she'd have a different fighting style, so I don't know how like that would feel. It's probably better to create them from scratch. Which they're probably going to have to do, because you'd have to think that like Viola is going to go down some path where in her Soul Chronicle she's going to be fighting her mind, like going against versions of Amy in her own brain, like the Amy trying to break free and her memories trying to come to fruition. So that is still a possibility. The last possibility, which is the least fun in my opinion, is that they only have one or the other, which I don't think that I hope that they don't do, and I don't want them to do, because both characters can bring so much to the table. Again, we haven't seen Viola in this universe, in this timeline yet, so we have no idea like what she would fight like or what weapons she would use. I know a lot of people would want her claws and orb like before, but from the way they've changed things to be less wonky like they were in 5, Hwang Sung-young being completely changed in my opinion because they're going to re-release Hong Yoon-song at some point. I think that we're gonna see a fun moveset, that's for sure, but a lot of these new movesets, like for characters, have a huge learning curve. Like Hwang Sung-young has a huge learning curve because of his talisman usage and whatnot, but we don't know if we're gonna see anything like that with magics or something like that. But those are my thoughts, and now I want to hear yours down below. Let me know in the comment section or on Discord what you think about this video and what your opinion is about how they can actually fit Amy and Viola in the game, or should they? Any and all thoughts are always welcome. Please subscribe. It really helps the channel out a lot, and it puts a smile on my face, and it keeps me doing these videos. And with that being said, guys, we're going to bring this video to a close, and as I always say, I love it, thank you,
and thank you.